Casper could not believe the strange sound he had heard coming from the garbage bag that he just thrown in the truck. But before he could check it out, the truck driver had already driven away to the next stop. Casper feared that the bag and whatever was inside making the noise would be crushed. He ran toward the truck driver to stop that from happening. Luckily, he got there in time, and he could check the bag. He wanted to know what was inside. But when he took a look, he turned pale. He decided to directly go to the police station, and he was going to bring the bag with him. But before we start, make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. There were always 3 of them on a shift, 1 driver and 2 loaders, and he was sure they would be fine without him for once. About 20 minutes later, he arrived at the police station, out of breath and sweating. "Officer, I need to speak to someone right now. It's important," he told the first person he saw. "What is it about, sir?" he was asked, and he simply showed the contents of the bag. This was enough, just like he had expected. "One moment, please." Moments later, an officer arrived and introduced himself to Casper. "Hello, I am Officer Andrews. I understand that you found something at work," he said, and Casper nodded. He showed him what was inside the bag, and he saw the officer's face immediately become tense with anger as he clenched his jaws. "I know, officer. This is absolutely terrible," he exclaimed. The officer asked Casper to lead him to the exact location where he had found this bag, and that was what they did. "It was right there," he said as he pointed to the sidewalk next to a front porch. Officer Andrews immediately barged to the front door of the house and knocked, saying, "Open up, this is the police." However, it didn't. Officer Andrews knocked on the door again and rang the doorbell a few times, but nobody answered. "Well, they're not going to get away with this so easily," the officer mumbled, and he walked to the back of the house. "All right, Casper. There's nothing we can do right now, but I will come back later this evening, and hopefully someone will be at home then. In the meantime, my colleague has taken that bag to a professional." Casper understood that his work here was done, and the only thing left for him to do was to wait. The officer had promised to call him with an update in a few days, and he was going to have to wait until then. That evening, the officer returned to the same house, and as he parked his car, he saw that the lights inside were on. He walked to the door and knocked, and he was surprised when a little girl opened the door. She stared at him with frightened eyes, and when he asked, "Hi, are your parents at home?" she ran back inside without saying a word. He heard her yell, "Mommy, come, there's a scary man at the door." "Good evening, officer. How can I help you?" "Good evening, ma'am. I hope I'm not interrupting, but I need to ask you some questions. You see, earlier this morning, a garbage truck found something very disturbing inside one of the trash bags that were directly in front of your house," he explained, as he pointed towards the same spot on the sidewalk as Casper had. The woman looked confused. "Okay, and," she said, "what do I have to do with this?" Officer Andrews cleared his throat, and he explained that he was looking for the person responsible for this horrible act. At first, the woman was hesitant and not very helpful, but when she heard what had actually been inside that bag, she turned pale and her entire demeanor changed. Suddenly, she was very willing to help. The community, usually quiet and uneventful, buzzed with the sudden presence of police activity, stirring a sense of unease. Back in their vehicle, the team reviewed their notes. A pattern was beginning to form. The late-night loitering, the oddly parked car, and a sense of unease echoed in multiple testimonies. In a flashback, Casper remembered the moment he heard the soft, faint meowing coming from the bag. At first, he thought his ears were playing tricks on him amidst the usual clatter of the garbage truck. But then, he heard it again, a scared, desperate whimper. His heart raced as he realized something alive was trapped inside. At the veterinary clinic, the vet worked quickly, examining the kittens found in the bag. Their condition was critical, but there was hope. Later, the vet called again with an update. "The kittens are responding to the treatment," she informed him. This news was a glimmer of hope in the midst of the grim situation. Casper felt a surge of happiness, knowing that the tiny lives he had stumbled upon were now on the path to recovery. Officer Andrews sat in a dimly lit room, his eyes fixed on the surveillance footage from cameras near the discovery site. He meticulously scanned each frame, looking for anything out of the ordinary. Hours passed, with the flickering screen offering little but routine neighborhood activity. Then, something caught his eye, a brief but unusual moment that demanded a closer look. The footage revealed an individual frequently visiting a nearby pet store. Andrews made a note to investigate further. Who was this person, and what was their connection to the case? The police began tracking the movements of the pet store visitor. They retraced the person's steps, trying to establish a pattern or motive. With each passing day, they were getting closer to identifying the person responsible. The team felt a growing sense of anticipation as pieces of the puzzle started to align. The suspect, faced with the allegations, was quick to deny any involvement. "I have nothing to do with this," they insisted, their voice steady yet tinged with an edge of nervousness. Andrews pressed with more questions, probing for inconsistencies in the suspect's story. Despite the pressing, the suspect remained steadfast in their denial, offering explanations for their actions and presence in the footage. Despite the suspect's denials, Andrews felt they were close to a breakthrough. However, as the interrogation progressed, it became clear that the evidence was circumstantial. There was nothing concrete linking the suspect directly to the crime. The team's frustration grew palpable. Ultimately, the suspect was released due to the lack of conclusive evidence. The suspect's release marked a disappointing turn in the investigation, but Andrews knew they couldn't give up. Fueled by frustration at the lack of progress in the official investigation, Casper decided to start his own inquiry. Casper began by chatting with people in the neighborhood. He revisited the streets he knew so well, engaging with residents and shopkeepers. As he spoke with more people, Casper started to gather small but potentially significant clues. A strange car seen one night, an argument heard in the distance, a sudden change in a neighbor's routine. Casper's informal investigation brought him closer to the community. His genuine concern and willingness to listen endeared him to the locals. The pieces of the puzzle were finally beginning to fit together, forming a coherent narrative of the events leading to the discovery of the bag. Officer Andrews, bolstered by the new evidence, devised a fresh plan to confront the suspect. In a tense meeting, Officer Andrews presented the suspect with the new evidence. The photographs, testimonies, and Casper's observations were laid out clearly. Officer Andrews: "We see the stress you're under," he said gently, "but there are always better options." The suspect nodded, remorse written all over their face. The police opted for a compassionate approach, seeing an opportunity for resolution and growth rather than punitive justice. The suspect, relieved by the police's understanding, agreed to take concrete steps towards making amends. They consented to counseling to address their stress and the underlying issues that led to their actions. The day finally came when the kittens, now healthy and playful, were ready for adoption. The community's response was heartwarming. Each kitten found a loving home. Casper, too, decided to adopt one. He named the kitten Lucky, a reminder of their shared journey from the brink of tragedy to a new beginning. Their bond grew stronger each day, symbolizing hope and renewal. Lucky was not just a pet. He was a symbol of what kindness and quick action could achieve. The incident with the kittens had a profound impact on the community. People came together, offering support for the kittens and each other. It was a reminder of the strength and compassion that existed within the neighborhood. This journey was challenging but enlightening, offering a chance for personal growth and understanding. The community, in turn, showed a willingness to forgive, embracing the spirit of second chances and healing. As Casper sat with Lucky in his lap, he reflected on the events that had unfolded. The experience had taught him about the power of compassion and the importance of community in facing challenges. He realized that every individual had the capacity to make a difference, no matter how small the action might seem. The story of Lucky and his siblings was a testament to this, a narrative of hope, kindness, and new beginnings.